Social distancing. I'm going to take off my mask so you can hear me better. Mike Collins, the president of Ray & Associates, is there. Just want to give a quick introduction. I have been involved with public education and on school boards for more than 25 years. I'm president, believe it or not, of 3 school boards. And so I do a lot of work around school boards. I have my superintendent certification, though I've not been a superintendent. Today, what we're trying to do, and we've been doing this with folks throughout Lee County, is to really get your feedback on 8 different questions here. And the important thing is that the board has a fiduciary responsibility to vote on the new superintendent, but it's important for them to get information from the community to understand where you're thinking, and our goal is to really develop a profile of the next superintendent. And once we develop a profile, we're going to search the country to find the best superintendent for Lee County Schools. So, Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks very much, Dale, and welcome. Great to be with you this morning. So, is that as much reverberation there as it sounds like? I can't hear you. Okay. Well, I'll be brief. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you. I do have the privilege with a capital P to serve as the president of Ray & Associates. I come to you as a 41-year business owner, most importantly, a 2-term member of a city school board in Columbus, Ohio, and a 2-term elected member of the state board of education. And we are thrilled to be with you and look forward to listening to you and getting guidance from your good thoughts. So have a wonderful morning with Dale, and I'll be here taking notes on your behalf.
Thank you, Mike. And if you heard, Mike is president of Ray & Associates, so it's an honor to have him with us this morning. So as I said, for those that have just come in, we have 8 questions. I'm not going to take notes. They're going to take notes, so we really want to hear what you said. And so the first question is, what do you consider is the significant strengths of the school district? And so one of the things that people don't realize is when you're searching for the best superintendent possible, and the board's interviewing the superintendents, they are interviewing them as much as the board's interviewing the superintendent candidate. So what we want to do is to make sure they know how wonderful, fantastic the district is, the good stuff. We'll get to some of the challenges that they have later. But what are some of the good stuff about the school district? And the second question is about the community. Why should they move here? Or why should they think about moving here? Obviously, beautiful beaches and so on. So let's start with the first question. What are the strengths of the school district? And please, there are 2 mics here. In order for folks to hear on Zoom, we need you to go to the mic. What are some of the strengths of this school district? What are some of the good things about Lee County Public Schools? You want to? Yeah.
First of all, good day. Thanks for listening to the input that I'm going to weigh in on with what I consider to be the significant strengths of the school district. So what I consider to be one of the greatest strengths of this school district is our leadership in science education. We have a very robust regional science fair that we work with every year in collaboration with FGCU, the Thomas Alva Edison Science Fair. And we have given many, many scholarships and internships to our local students that have really shown excellence and promise in the area of science. So that is one of the greatest things that our community and our school district has done in terms of really valuing the role of science in education and giving kids the maximum opportunity to further build on that promise that they show.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Anybody else want to share something? Okay. So obviously this is beautiful. The weather, I live in New Jersey, so I'm loving being down here. You know, what are some of the community, the wonderful things about the community that should be shared with candidates to say you really should think about moving down here? What are some of the wonderful things about the community, about the area? Anybody care to share anything? Yeah, please come on down. to either mic.
Good morning. I just feel that our community, our district is very special in that it's new. It's so new, really. Lee County is probably the largest in the state of Florida, I think, or the second largest, but there's so many new areas in it. You know, Fort Myers is generational already, where you're working on 3-4 generations of people living there. All the other areas are relatively newer, just starting out, and people are beginning to come here and create their own generations. And I think that's what makes Lee County as special as it is, because it's so new. So when you're talking about the educational end of it, it's imperative that we begin to develop those kinds of programs that actually show a light to the speciality of this fairly new area. I mean, it's been around for years, but in a generational sense, and that's what makes community, is generations, because people put down roots. And that's what creates it. So I think a lot of it has to do with being able to work within that area to be able to establish that. And there's so many people moving in, especially now, that it's incumbent upon us to just ensure that we take the lead in all of that. Science is a wonderful thing, and yes, you do, because my grandson loves it. But there's so many other things. But there's a lot of things that shouldn't be in the school system anymore. Should never have been in the school system.
And
we will get to that, yes. But as far as that goes, that's what I think makes this community, this district, as special as it is, because of its newness.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments about that? Yeah, coming up, please. So, yeah. So what's great about the community here?
So one of the things that's really awesome about this community is our diversity. We have such a diverse population. We have people who are snowbirds, who have relocated, who are here part-time, who bring real assets to the community in terms of volunteer opportunities. We have lots of older people who perhaps were school teachers who want to continue some of that work with our community, and they're a valued resource. We also have diversity in terms of the population of people who have moved to this community. For instance, out in Lehigh Acres, where I was a school teacher for a number of years, we have so many different populations of people. We have people who are working families who are living in gated communities. We also have first-generation immigrant families who are in our community from all throughout the Caribbean, all throughout the world, really. Germany, Russia, Mexico, Guatemala. Really, we are a very, very diverse community, and we have a lot to offer to a superintendent who wants to capitalize and build on that diversity in our community. Secondly, we have a strong history in the area of sustainability and environmental issues in our community. So with the university being sustainably minded and the work that's been done historically on environmental education in our community, we also offer that as strength and something to build upon.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anybody else care to comment before we move to question number 3? Okay, now we're going to start getting into those first 2 questions, talk about why should someone, come to. And so, as I said, we're going to scour the country for the best superintendents. They may be in Florida now, they could be in California. We don't know, but we want to make sure that they want to come here. So those are great answers. So, question number 3. What are your 2 or 3 top leadership qualities and management styles you'd like to see in the new superintendent? What style should they have? What are some of the key attributes of this superintendent that you think are essential for the next superintendent of Lee County Public Schools? Comments. What are those characteristics? You want to get, come on up so we can hear you. And it's okay, there's seats up here, so if you're going to speak, you guys can sit down here too. Unless you want the exercise. You may want the exercise, so, this is Florida, so you want the exercise, so that's good.
I just think that it should be a combination of the academic background, not necessarily in a classroom so much as being involved in education, but having been involved in classroom activities and the development of that, as well as a business management portion, because it's very important to be able to maneuver and manipulate the budget so that it best serves everybody. And you can't let people fall through the cracks as much as that happens, because our budget is limited. So in order to make that all work, I think business management skills is important, as well as the academic end of it.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. What other skills? What other skills? Yes, please. Yes, please. Please come on down. That's why we're here.
Yep.
We want to hear your voice.
So in the area of what type of leadership qualities, management styles, et cetera, what I'm looking for is I would really like to find someone who has a history of creating liaisons with the broader community to lift up the lives of people in our community and help our kids get to a point where they can enjoy a good quality of life within our community. What I'm talking about is we have great opportunities, as I mentioned before, like with the science fair for some of the brightest kids, and a lot of times those kids will go on to really stellar higher institutions, and they probably aren't going to stay in our community. But we have, 70% of our kids don't go to college, and I would like for there to be a real serious effort made to try to look at working with the broader community to find ways to make sure that they can enjoy a quality of life right here where they're going to stay. I would like there to be a superintendent who has some experience building technical programs with transferable skills for that particular group of students who may remain in our community. We want to make sure that they have the skills that are going to be necessary to be successful out in our community. And I think that there has to be a dialogue between the school district and the broader community, the business community, the university, the technical colleges, in order for that to be successful. And that there is an equity for students who are at risk. And what I mean by that is students who may not have a history of their families being engaged in higher education, or students who may have exceptional learner needs, that we are really working to leverage the resources that are necessary in order for those students to become as successful in our community as we can.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Well said. Are there any characteristics we haven't heard that we'd like to add to the list? Okay. Let's move on to question number 4. And for those that just came in, these are the 8 questions that we're asking the community. The other thing that I'll say is that we have an online survey, and that online survey is in English, Spanish, and Creole. And we have about 5,000 folks who filled it out to try to identify the characteristics of that. So I encourage you, if you haven't filled out the survey, to fill out the survey. Tell your friends, you don't have to be connected with the school district, neighbors, to fill out that survey. We want as much information as possible, so remember to fill that out. Okay, so question number 4, what are the 2 or 3 most critical issues, now we're getting into issues now, that the new superintendent will face in the position? What are the issues that they will face? Comments, and I know some of you have some issues you'd like to talk about. But what are the issues if someone's coming here as superintendent? What are they going to have to deal with to be successful? And again, these two mics are open. Any comments? Yeah, please, that's okay. That's why we're here.
Well, in the short term, I think that the critical issues that the superintendent will have to deal with is the lack of civility in the community overall, and an outright assault on education is underway. Just in these four walls that we look around, we have seen the school board members have to deal with getting yelled at, being called names, and we've managed to make it on national news due to the lack of civility in our community. So that is a really big issue that the superintendent will need to face. There's also a lot of disinformation, and that disinformation has come into our community, and these schools are an excellent way to be able to dispel some of the disinformation that has contaminated our community. In fact, I don't know of a better way to do it. So I think that that is one of the critical issues. You know, students are spending a lot of time, just like family and the broader community, and it's become a lot of confirmation bias. So I think that recognizing the severity of the disinformation, really making an overt effort to educate the community, including children, about reliable sources and some of the pitfalls, not just the positives that our new era of social media brings. I think that's really an important critical issue. I also feel like it's very important for a superintendent to realize that to seek the truth, in terms of I think there becomes a point in time where you want to paint a rosier picture than things actually are. And so I think every time that we get a new superintendent in, we have an opportunity to say, hey, look, I realize that there are a lot of issues, and that in order to be able to take these on, we're going to have a lot of accurate data. And we're going to have to feel comfortable with acknowledging the severity of these issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Other comments? Yes, please.
Personally, I think one of the biggest issues we have is being able to get back to the fundamentals of education. And I'm talking about just the fundamentals without bringing in a lot of stuff that's extenuating and really does not belong in the classroom. And I think a new superintendent would have a huge job right now trying to decipher what is real and what isn't in education. I also believe that the person who gets this position, yes, is going to have a very difficult time with what's been going on, because it's not so much the accuracy of everything, it's being able to take away the things that have divided everybody in terms of the civility. And I really believe that a superintendent in any position, whether it's in the school or anywhere else, their job is not to offer their own personal opinion when they're trying to decipher what is really the right way to go to service the children who are in school and that they're teaching, regardless of what grade they're in. Your personal feelings have to stay out of it. It has to be the facts. And you just can't add your personal feelings to that, because that's not the place for a superintendent. It's only to deal with the things that are real for the kids. And the fundamentals of education have been lost for a long time. I mean, they're just bringing back civics. And to me, that's an outrage. Most people, most kids in school today don't even know what the Constitution or the Bill of Rights is about. They have not a clue. They've never been taught it. They don't know the branches of government. They don't even know how to discuss those things. I just believe that a superintendent, whoever we get, should be open-minded, fair, understand the ramifications of all of it together. The diversity isn't to separate, it's to bring them together. Diversity is in everything that we do every single day, from the toilet paper we choose to the education we seek for our children. That's diversity, all of it is. And it all comes down to choice. You have to be able to give people their choice. And a good superintendent, as far as I'm concerned, would offer that without a personal bias.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, so question number 5. So is there any other information you would like to share concerning the community, school, or superintendent position that would impact the search process?
So I've had some really interesting conversations about education in my lifetime with people from around the world. And one of the really unique things about education in America that makes it different from education in other countries is the fact that we do have such local control and local involvement in our schools. That's very different than any place else in the world. It's really unique. And so I think it's very important that a superintendent recognize home rule, that we have to be making some decisions about the issues that affect us right here in Southwest Florida. You know, it's different here. We're in a completely different climate zone, 10B for the most part. And it's a completely different landscape. It's a completely different mindscape. And so we're looking for a superintendent who's going to understand the role and the unique opportunities that local control of schools provide. So I want to make sure that whoever is willing to commit to the local issues, that the philosophy of the superintendent overall acknowledges and recognizes the importance and the specialness of local communities and weighing in on education.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, let's move to item number 6, or question number 6. Are there specific questions, identify specific questions or areas the board may want to ask of candidates during the interview process? Are there questions or areas that the board should explore? Now, the board has a fiduciary responsibility to vote. They're the only ones who are going to vote for the next superintendent, but this input is very, very important, and we will share some suggested questions or ideas. Are there any questions that come to mind that we haven't talked about yet that we might, that the board should ask the superintendent candidates? Anything come to mind? If not, that's okay, but anything that we haven't talked about? Okay. Yeah, Mike? Yeah.
I put it in the chat. I don't know. I put my email if you want to see it. Because for this one about suggested questions for suggested candidates, we need to fill it out. So, if we have some time.
Can you all see that? So it's Michael at RAYASSOC.com, Michael at rayassociates.com. So if after we leave today, there's some things that you said, oh, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or here are some questions, or so on, it's important for you to send that. We want input. We want the input from as many people as possible. So the question number 7, we're not going to talk about here, but if you have any names of candidates you would like to recommend, contact us after the meeting. Send an email. And so if there's somebody, it doesn't matter whether they've applied or not, but if you know somebody in the area, or you have a friend in Ohio or somewhere that you think is a great superintendent who could really deal with the challenges here and be a great leader, then please email us that name. So then we'll end up with any questions about the search process. Any questions about the search process? Typically, Mike, do you know, I don't have the schedule in front of me, do you know when we're anticipating a selection?
Yeah, around the end of February, selection, the new superintendent taking the seat on July 1.
This is a good time for us. There are candidates around the country now who are really looking for, you know, a new district, who are great leaders, who've done a great job in their district. So we have a defined process. We are the largest and oldest of the superintendent search firms. That's what we do. We focus on this. So we have some best practices that we utilize. And this is an important and very large district. So we will make sure that you have the best candidates possible. Any questions? Any other questions before we end? Well, again, I just want to thank you for your time. I know there are a whole bunch of other places you could be. This is really, really important. As I often said, because I'm on school boards myself, this is the most important thing that school board members do, is vote for a superintendent, because that superintendent will be running the day-to-day operations of the organization for 5 to 8 years. So thank you all. Good luck with whatever you do. If you have kids or grandkids in the district, I hope they are successful. And it's an honor to be before you this morning. Yeah. Can you do the mic? Could you go to the mic so we can hear?
I mean, there's only a few of us here.
He can't hear, and so yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
When all is said and done and they start interviewing the candidates that they feel are qualified to be in the final round, or even before then, getting to that point, is the public invited?
So Mike, I don't know if you want to take that.
In the state of Florida, everything is open. So you will be able to observe the interviews. You'll observe the presentation of 10 to 12 candidates who will consider 5 or 6 interviews. You'll be able to observe that when the 2 to 3 finalists are selected. We will then put together some groups again. You'll be able to hear these finalists ask questions. You'll have questions. They will answer them. And then we actually have an impression board. You'll fill that online, but you'll be able to cast your impressions about the finalists. We will chart all that to the board, and the board will look at your impressions, your opinions of the candidates before they make the final decision. You'll actually be able to follow this process very closely on the overall candidate presentation and interview process will occur in January and February.
So Mike, let me. You're fading out. It's hard to hear. So what Mike was saying is that in Florida, the process is public. So the whole process is public. But when we get down to the final 2 or 3 candidates, we have a community forum, and it'll be depending on what we discuss and decide how that looks. So you'll get a chance, possibly here, to send questions to me or Steve or Mike, and then we'll ask questions of the candidate, and you'll get a chance to see their responses. And you'll be able to online give your impression of what the candidates, how they responded. That information will go to the board, and it will inform their final decision. Yeah, so great. Well, thank you all very much. Again, good morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.